This is a sports catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, September 28th, is a former wide receiver with the Seattle Seahawks, who was with the Seahawks for his entire 14-year career and probably still is the best wide receiver in Seahawks history. He held a lot of major receiving records when he retired and inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1995. Then, as a Republican, he served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 4 terms for 8 years. He almost was governor of Oklahoma, but lost. However, this guy is a great player for Seattle in history. His name is Steve Largent, who's now 70 years old today. Steve Largent was born September 28, 1954 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So naturally, he went to the University of Tulsa to play football. And he was good and all that, putting up 2 seasons of 14-plus touchdown catches. Unfortunately, he wouldn't be drafted to the 4th round. If we look at the wide receivers picked ahead of him, since he took Billy Brooks from Oklahoma with 11th overall, that didn't work so well. Minnesota took Sammy White in the 2nd round from Grambling. That kind of worked. The Vikings needed him. Seattle took a wide receiver by the name of Steve Rabel. It was an expansion pick, but Steve Rabel would be much remembered for his color commentary work on Seahawks radio broadcast. And then in the 3rd round, the Chargers took Larry Dorsey. Cleveland took Dave Logan. Chicago took Brian Baschnagel. Dallas took Duke Ferguson. Kansas City took Henry Marshall. Miami took Daryl Harris. Okay. Dallas took Butch Earthquake Johnson. Okay. Ernie Pohl to Pittsburgh. And then another wide receiver. And then Pat Tilley went to the Cardinals. Steve Rivera to the Niners. Tinker Owens to New Orleans. I think it was Steve Tinker Owens. Gerald Taylor to the Rams. Artie Owens to the Chargers. And then with the 117th pick from the LA Rams via Philadelphia and Green Bay, the Houston Oilers took Steve Largent from Tulsa. And you'd be thinking, hold on a minute. Seattle, if he played all 14 years for Seattle, then how come he was drafted by Houston? Well, that's the beauty. So Largent played in the preseason for the Oilers in 1976. He was slated to be cut. However, they thought, I don't think we should cut him. Why don't we just trade him to the Seahawks for an 8th round pick? They did. Yeah. Anyhow, Bum Phillips, the Houston coach, said that he had all the receivers they needed, and Houston would release him. And Largent thought his career was over before it began. Fortunately for him, he got a chance with Seattle, who were an expansion team at that time in 1976. So he did his job. His first practice with the team went horribly, but he had sleep deprivation while trying to care for his mother and 3 younger brothers after the mother left their alcoholic and violent second husband. Regardless of that, Seattle understood and helped Largent out. So he played for the Seahawks that first year. So that practically meant, well, if you play preseason games, you play preseason games, but it doesn't count towards playing as someone in the regular season. So regardless of that, he was sure-handed and was able to get open due to his route running work. And he became the first Seahawk in their 3rd season in 1978 to be selected to the Pro Bowl. He had 6 more Pro Bowl things. In 1979, he even led the league in receiving yards with 1,237. And then in 1985, he did so again with 1,287. That was the Seahawks receiving record until DK Metcalf in the COVID year of 2020 broke that. So anyway, Steve Largent missed some games in 1987 only because he was on everyone's side during the NFLPA strike, in which, the NFL put replacement players in and people would cross the picket line, but Largent never did. So, anyway, Mike Harden had a big hit on Steve Largent that made him lose 2 teeth and suffer a concussion. However, on Sunday Night Football on ESPN in Seattle, the Broncos came back. After Harden made a big interception, Steve Largent, out of all things, later in the season, then came up and tackled Harden, making him lose the ball and the ball back to Seattle. That was one of the greatest hits by a wide receiver in history. Steve Largent would have a team award named after him. The Steve Largent Award for spirit, dedication, and integrity. He was nicknamed Yoda for his ability to catch anything thrown at him. And he attributed this ability to a skeet shooting buddy, as he focused on the tip of the ball to track things. And when people didn't use gloves. So he knew how to adjust when Jim Thornton or Dave Craig threw touchdowns to him. When he retired, he had 819 receptions for 13,089 receiving yards, 100 touchdowns, and 177 straight games with a reception. That record would be broken by Jerry Rice. A lot of things got broken by Jerry Rice. What do you expect? Seattle decided to retire its number 8 EV in 1992, which was huge and all of that. When Jerry Rice played for Seattle, he even wore number 80. Largent actually talked to Jerry Rice. Rice said he idolized Largent growing up. Largent said he could keep number 80. And once Rice left Seattle, then the number 80 would be back to the rafters. In 2008, Tulsa retired his number 83. So he played a lot of years for Seattle. From 76 to 89, 200 games, 819 receptions, 13,000 plus receiving yards, and 100 touchdowns. He was basically the wide receiver you all love to see score touchdowns before Jerry Rice. And yeah, amazing how he played Seattle from expansion until 1989. Houston must have been kicking themselves, although they had Mike Renfro. So anyhow, he decided to run for Congress in 1994. And actually won 3 succeeding Congresses. So he never lost out, and he never won with less than 60% of the vote. Anyway, he knew what he could do and all that. One of his first bills was the parental rights bill that died in committee after it attracted opposition from even other Christian conservatives like him. One of his bills would have abolished the federal tax code at the end of 2001. Largent actually introduced a bill that would ban adoptions by gay and lesbian parents in Washington, D.C. and did not like the homosexual practices and all of that. And he was accused of being anti-Catholic, but he wasn't. So, anyway, he decided to run for governor in 2002, won the Republican nomination, and devoted his energy on the race, which meant he had to resign his House seat. He was an overwhelming favorite, but somehow lost by under 7,000 votes. A lot of people said that the presence of a well-funded independent, Gary Richardson, actually was big on the ballot because it would take votes away from Largent, possibly. The state senator Henry actually had support of cockfighting, which had a last-minute endorsement by rural cockfighting interests that actually turned out in droves in the election when the legality of cockfighting was still on the ballot. I can't believe that was actually a thing. And Largent's vulgarity. A response of an Oklahoma City TV reporter asking where he was at the time of the September 11th attacks, using bullshit. Regardless of that, he still was pretty decent and all that. Largent has 4 kids, 3 sons, Kyle, Kelly, and Kramer, but Kramer has spina bifida, who's still alive to this day, and daughter Cassie. So yeah, that was amazing. He almost won the election. He should have won the election. If it wasn't for Gary Richardson's votes, I think Largent would have won and became governor of Oklahoma. Well, that's just me. But, Steve Largent deserved everything. And Jason Lindgren deserves to have a guy like Steve Largent be part of the Seattle Seahawks agenda. Anyhow, I'm going to do